birth rate, death rate, and migration. They are the three concepts related to the population change. We have looked at birth rate was so high, whereas the death rate controlled, so that the population growth is high. So whether the birth rate is high or not, let's find out with another concept. From 1981 onwards, the birth rate also started decreasing instead. From which year? 1981. This is resulted in a gradual decrease in the population growth, and this can be calculated in percentage over the decades from 1951 to 2011. What happened to the population growth from 1951 to 2011 that you have done, which is in the above table, right? The percentage over the decades, it is shown clearly that there is a decline in the population growth that you have done in what you call this table, which was 2.16 by 1951 to 61, increased up to 1981 year. From 1981 onwards to 2011, there is a decline in population growth, right? That this table you have done yesterday. So from this table we can conclude that birth rate also started declining. So it is what that from 1951 to 2011, if we observe this table 3, which shows the changes over the population growth. As per the table, the population growth decreased, especially from 1981 onwards. The population growth started declining. So up to 1981, there the population growth rate increased. It means there the birth rate high. So to understand this, the birth rate high, we have to look another concept that what we call fertility rate. What is a fertility rate here? Understand? In short, we can say that it is a total births for a woman. It means that how many children born to a woman in her entire life. Okay, or we can call it is the number of children, that is are probable to be born to a woman if she were to live to end of her childbearing years and bear children in accordance with the current patterns. This is the definition. Once again, the total fertility rate is the number of children are probably to be born to a woman if she were to live to the end of her childbearing years and bear children in accordance with the current patterns. Let me make you understand about this definition. In simple words, we can say the number of children who are likely to born for a woman in her entire life if she were live, she was to live to the end of her life. Instead, it is the capacity we can call. Fertility rate is the capacity of a woman in giving birth to the children in accordance with her present childbearing capacity. In short, we can say the total births per woman, the number of children who are likely to born, the number of children are likely to born to a woman if she were to live at the end of her childbearing years. Suppose a woman lifespan is some 60 years. So within this 60 years of lifespan, what is the capacity of that woman to give birth to children? Okay, if it is some 7, it means that she have a capacity of giving birth to 7 children in her entire life. Understand? So it is a what you call the number of children who born to a woman in her entire life with her childbearing capacity. Understand? Childbearing capacity means the capacity of giving birth to the children. Okay. So if this fertility rate declines, then we can say that couples are decided to have fewer children. Okay. Factors both within the family and outside the family will decide the number of children by a couple in her life. Understand? Some couples may think that they should have only 2 children or maybe one child. But we see here it may be the force of their parents to get more than one, or maybe friends, neighbors near to them will show impact on their decision, and that decision can be changed. So what I say is here, the number of children the family decides to have depends on the factors of within the family and outside the family. Understand? Let's look at the graph 4. Understand what happened in the graph 4. Before that, we will look into the fertility rate of India in 1961. Fertility rate of India was 5.9 in 1961. That means in that 1961 year, in every family near about 5 or 6 children born. That indicates an average. It's not accurate, it is an average. Understand? That means, when how do we take average? Summing up all, right? So an average in every family, a woman was likely to give birth to 5 or 6 children. Definitely it was 5 or 6 children in every family in 1961, right? So there was no below, there was not below children 5 or 6 in 1861. So the family decided the number of children they want, that depending on their security, that is in the old age they need security for their life, and it is the survival of the children, that is opportunity for children to survive, and the social norms. In those days, the family which have many children was looked to be very proud, and there have been some changes in this trend. At present, the fertility rate of India is 2.7, whereas in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, it is 1.9. In India, we find it is 2.7 at present, and in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh it is 1.9. It means 1 or 2 children compulsory appeared in each family at present. Understand? At present situation is indicating the small families. Parents are not wishing to have more than two children, right? It is becoming burden to the family to take care of the many children at present, because many families are small, jobs are not available, and many are middle class families, and the survival of the children is secured 1 year, as there is advancement in the medical and what to call nutrition one. Okay, the child is getting nutritious food. In some cases, especially coming to nutrition, but medical advancement is there, so that there in every family we find 1 or 2 children. Okay, in other words, we can say that some families, if we ask that, they say that 1 or 2 enough, so that they can give better education, quality life to their children, right? Earlier they had given birth to more than 7 children, and that was a large family. Understand? In that 7, it was actually the birth was 10 and 12, but the survival of the children was some 5 or 7. Okay, so that was the situation at the time. So they did not think of the children that should be some 1 or 2. They wanted many more at that time, but today it is only 1 or 2. Many have got awareness, right? Number of children in a family is a family of burden, a family of problems, right? We have slogan: small family is a nucleus family, small family is a happy family, large family a family of problems, right? They may not provide anything to all the family members. Understand? Because parents' income is very little, and the little income is not enough to meet the requirements of the family members. Understand? So from all these aspects, today the fertility rate at present is 1.9 in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Now look at the graph 4. What do you see in this graph here? Understand? Fertility rate once in 1961 5.9. In each family an average 5 or 6 children appeared. By 1971 it decreased to 5.4, and by 1981 it is decreased to 4.6. Then 1991 3.8, then the 2001 it is 3.1, and it is 2.7 by 2011. So how does the line appears is, the line is declining here. It is declining from 5.9 to 2.7. Okay, there is a decline in the fertility rate instead. It means gradually the fertility rate decreased, right? Fertility rate what? Decreased from 1961 to 2011 instead. So what is the factor for decreasing the fertility rate instead? It is that the small families are given importance. In large families there was no happiness to the family members. There were difference of opinions in the large families, and there among the family members there were small disputes. Due to the difference of opinions, families are broken. Industrial revolution also occurred that helped the families to break out. Those who got job in far from the homes, they separated from the families and lived far away. So small families have become a norm in the present situation, right? And it is main thing that people who are not wishing to marry at early age, right? In those days marriages were done at 14-15, that what we call child marriages, we can say that. But at present people are, that means the youth is thinking first to get the job, and they are leading a life up to 30 years as unmarried. After that they were going to marry instead. That is the factor we see here instead. And coming to another factor which brings change in the population size, that is migration. What is migration? That is a third component. We were discussing the components or aspects of the population change. First one, birth rate, we discussed. Second one is death rate, we discussed. And third is migration, right? Birth rate is discussed in relation with fertility rate. Okay, now coming to third component, migration. Migration is movement of the people from one region to another region, or from one territory to another territory, one place to another place. That is called migration. Okay, right? The people moving from Andhra Pradesh to Telangana, it is a migration, right? They are moving from one region to another region, right? Or we can see that they move from one nation to another nation. Okay, that is also migration. Okay, so what is migration? It is a movement of people across regions and territories. It is a definition for migration instead. Migration can be in two ways. It can be internal and external. Internal migration in the sense within the nation. Just now I said from Andhra Pradesh to Telangana, or from Telangana to Andhra Pradesh, or from Telangana to Kerala, that what we call internal migration. People moving from one state to another state, or within the state also. It is what you call from Adilabad to Karimnagar, or from Karimnagar to Hyderabad. This is also called internal migration, which is in the country. Then external migration, which we call international migration, that is across the countries. People moving from India to America, India to Britain, India to Australia, right? India to Saudi Arabian countries. This is what we call international migration. Understand? And in these two migrations, internal migration will not bring change the size of the population. Size of the population will not change, right? Because what happens here in a internal migration, we see people move within one nation, from one area to another area, right? As per the 2011 census, we have 121.01 crore population. So this 121.01 crore people will be moving from one area to another area within the nation, so that there may not be change in the size of the population with the internal migration. Okay, they move from one place to another place, one region to another region within the nation. Okay, and this migration also what to call influences the distribution of population within the nation. See, it is the size of population and what to call the distribution of population. These two are different. Size of the population in the sense, this is one region. In this region the people are constant. They may move from this area to top and from east to west, understand, like that they will move. But the number of people in this region may not change, as they are moving inside that only, they are confined to that area. So the size of the population will not change by internal migration, but there will be change in the distribution of population. What is meant by distribution of population? It is a different age structure, understand? So population distribution can change. Suppose some 20% of the Telangana people migrated to the Maharashtra, then the distribution of people in Telangana decreases, whereas in Maharashtra increases. That what I want to say. Okay, it influences distribution of a population, understand? So migration plays very important role in changing the composition and distribution of population. Okay, composition in the sense age structure, distribution in the sense the number of people changing from one region to another region. This we will study in the next chapter, how it will happen, understand, right? And we have listened from many times the people that population growth, people talk that population growth is alarmed one. Especially people often literate people, they talk about others not benefiting because there are too many people who have to move and share the few resources. Simple, I will bring this clear to you taking your class, understand? Suppose in a class which is a class, let me tell you that by drawing. Okay, this is the class. The strength in this class is 40. More than 40 cannot fit in this class. Understand? That means in this class the benches are enough for 40 students. We cannot adjust another bench. We cannot arrange another benches, some more benches in the class. Okay. But what happened in this academic year, some more 10 students have come and admitted into the 10th class. And these 10 members should adjust with this 40. That means the benches which are sufficient to the 40 students should be shared with extra 10 members. Understand? This is what the question. This is what, with this I think you have, it is clear to you. In a nation, we have very few resources. It may be water, it may be minerals, it may be the food, it may be the shelter, right? It may be the uses of public facilities. All these are limited. When population increases, these limited resources should be used with many more people. Understand? So people, especially the literate people, they often says that the benefits are not reaching to all because of what increased in a population. Understand? So they says that people have to share few resources with many more. So the family decides the number of children they want to have based on many considerations. That as resources they want, their security in the old age, very important. Most often families with a large number of children are poorer than the rest, don't own many assets, and they also depend on their children for their old age. We will discuss this point in the next class instead.